Welcome to What is Crypto? I'm Matt, and this is Crypto. Today I'm going to be talking to you about Casper, ticker signal KAS. In the video, I'm going to be going over a lot of different things that Casper has cooking at the moment, talk about its price action, but more importantly, the vision of Casper and some recent updates that we've got. I'm also going to cover another recent exchange listing which Casper has got. So yeah, if any of that sounds like it could be for you, as always, like, comment, subscribe, join the Discord, 100% free to join. I'll leave a link in the description. Scroll down, click the link, and I'll see you there. Cheers, legends. Let's get into it. Alrighty, as always, let's talk Bitcoin first. Super important to follow Bitcoin, as altcoins by and large follow the path of Bitcoin. When Bitcoin goes up, altcoins go up by a factor greater than that of Bitcoin. And when Bitcoin goes down, altcoins usually bleed more than Bitcoin. Now, while this isn't always the case, it is by and large a pretty good rule of thumb in crypto. So what are we seeing at the moment? Well, Bitcoin had a massive run up. Then we had a prolonged bull flag from March till around October. We were chopping around, the market was bleeding, and then we had an absolutely massive rip, ranged for a little while, and then broke down out of that range. And we had some pretty crazy moves in crypto. So we had a massive dump in crypto where we dumped 20% on Bitcoin, and then after that 20% dump, we pumped up 20%, and then after we pumped up 20%, we then had another dump where we dumped down about another 20%. After that move, however, we have pumped back up again around another 15%. Big level coming up though, sitting just over 90,000, just around that $91,000 mark. So that is one of the first big key levels. So between 90,000 and 106,000 was really where we were ranging at before. So reclaiming that 90,000 mark before continuing on up is super key for Bitcoin. Would love to see something like this. And then I don't mind if we have some consolidation in this range. In the short term, all I want is to see us break and hold above that 90K, $91,000 mark. Now, do I think we should be FOMOing in at this stage? Well, no, I don't. A couple of reasons. So although the markets are looking really good, the RSIs are heating up. Now, previously when the RSIs get really hot, it can be a sign that we're going to have a little bit of downward action to come. Now, the weekly RSIs, however, are looking more healthy. So weekly RSIs are probably a better indicator of this. So when the weekly RSIs get overbought, there's usually a bit more downside. And when the weekly RSIs are oversold, there's usually a bit more upside. So buying when they are oversold and selling when they are overbought has been historically fairly profitable. So the RSIs are still quite oversold. So looking at the weekly RSIs, I'm pretty happy with where Bitcoin is sitting at the moment. I don't think that the highs are in by the market at all. So yeah, for me, there is going to be a decent amount of upside in the markets, whether that's in the next few weeks, few months, over the next year. I'm fairly confident that the markets are going to turn around eventually. Now, Bitcoin dominance, just a quick look at Bitcoin dominance, talk about this all the time. Bitcoin dominance, in essence, shows the relative strength of Bitcoin versus the altcoin market. Now, when this chart of Bitcoin dominance goes down, that means that altcoins are outperforming Bitcoin. And when Bitcoin dominance is going up, that means that Bitcoin is outperforming altcoins. So when the chart is going down, you want to be in altcoins, and when the chart is going up, you're better to be in Bitcoin. The pattern usually is that we have about a 3-year growing of Bitcoin dominance before 1 year of a sharp drop off. Then Bitcoin dominance grows for a 3-year period, and then there's 1 year of a sharp drop off in Bitcoin dominance. Now, we have been growing up for the last 3 years, and historically after the halvings, which are indicated by these yellow vertical lines, 7 months after the halvings, we have had that sharp drop off in Bitcoin dominance. Currently sitting at 10 months after, so I would expect Bitcoin dominance to start breaking down fairly soon. So yeah, when we do see that drop off in Bitcoin dominance, that is going to indicate altcoin season, and our altcoin bags are going to go parabolic. Also, another thing that is pretty important to look at is the S&P 500, as when the S&P 500 is bleeding, that isn't great for risk on assets. We want to see the S&P do well, and the S&P 500 has actually been recovering. We had the largest drop in the S&P 500 since July 2023 last month. Since then, we have started recovering. So we are back up 5% over the last couple of weeks. Now, this drop was around that 10% mark. And since then, we have retraced back up 5%, which is good to see. So yeah, we want to see the S&P 500 start cooking. And when the S&P 500 starts cooking, it is really good for risk on assets. So yeah, keep an eye on the S&P 500, another important thing to look at. Alrighty, now enough of that. We've talked about a couple of things, so let's get looking at Casper. So Casper on the chart, as I've talked about multiple times in the past, so I'm probably sounding like a broken record, we had this prolonged range in between 10 cents and 19 cents. After we broke down out of this range, we did reclaim it briefly before Bitcoin started nuking. Now, when Bitcoin nukes, altcoins nuke, so obviously Casper then lost this range. I did allocate really heavily down at sub 6 cents. I didn't quite get the Pico lows, but I was buying at 5.8 cents, put out some buy alerts in my Discord. If you listen to those, then you would be up fairly well. Since then, Casper is up around 40% from the lows. So currently, 39% up since those lows, and we were up around 55%. Really, key levels to watch for are holding above this 5.2 cent mark. And really, I want to not put in any lower lows than there. And I do want us to reclaim eventually that 10.4 cents. So a couple of levels to look out for. But that's just the charts. Let's have a look at Casper and what Casper is actually doing at the moment. So one of the reasons why I'm so excited about Casper is they have been delivering. So Casper's successfully transitioned on their testnet to 10 blocks per second. And at the end of this month, they are meant to have their hard fork with mainnet activation going live sometime around April, May. So this is really what Casper and the team has been working towards this whole time. One of the things that I love about Casper is they've had this roadmap laid out and they have been kicking goals and ticking off all the parts that they need to do along this roadmap along the way. So they have been doing what they say they have been doing, and the team has been communicating that quite clearly. Now, a lot of this information is quite technical, so I won't go deep into it in this video. Now, this is pretty unbelievable technology, and the whole selling point for me is Casper being similar to Bitcoin in the fact that it is that peer-to-peer payment solution. Now, Bitcoin, however, isn't scalable at size, so there is a need for faster and newer tech. Bitcoin is now that digital gold, that store of value, and I think Casper is well placed to be that digital silver, which there is undoubtedly a global need for. And if Casper does win that race as a mass adopted global digital silver, well, I think there are going to be some pretty darn happy Casper holders. So I'm still holding all my Casper, added more at 5.8 cents. Another selling point for Casper is that it was a fair launch. There were no pre-mine, no ICOs, no pre-sales, no altcoin allocations. It is a fair, equal distribution to the people that have been supporting and securing the network from the start. So that is adhering to that pure Nakamoto ethos. Now you can go on the Twitter page of Casper and you can learn a lot more about this if any of these points don't make sense. And Casper 8 hours ago just posted they have a new listing for Hybit Official. So that is a Casper USDT pair. So another listing, Casper kicking goals. So Casper now has a Coinbase and Binance futures listing, not a spot listing, but they have futures listings. And Casper has some pretty large exchange listings. So Bybit, BitGet, Mexi, Gate.io, KuCoin, BingX, Kraken, Bitmark, LBank, XT. So that's on spot, and on their futures listings, they have Coinbase, Binance, and a couple of other very large exchanges. So they are still working, they are still kicking goals, getting exchange listings and building for the future. And when Casper's mainnet goes live, I think it's going to be pretty difficult for Coinbase and Binance to continue to fade a spot listing for Casper. So anyway, just a quick update on the market on Casper. Although nothing too exciting is happening on the charts at the moment, we have seen a little bit of price action. Wouldn't mind to see this 3-day RSI cool off a little bit. So if we do have a retracement, put in another higher low before pushing on up and reclaiming that 10.4 cents. That is what I want to see. Bitcoin at the moment is the most important thing to watch, and the global macroeconomic factors that are in play are pretty important to watch as well. So we want to see Bitcoin start putting in higher lows, Bitcoin start climbing up this ladder, and then Bitcoin dominance to break down with the S&P also pushing on up. If these things happen, I think Casper is going to be primed to perform pretty darn well, as their roadmap is going to likely coincide with when the market starts turning green. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for me today, legends. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you found any of this content valuable. Then follow along for more Casper content, and I hopefully will see you in the Discord. Scroll down if you're not there, click the link, and say hi. Cheers, legends. I'll catch you in the next one.